time does not take revenge on me and make you sleep. Seeing this galaxy of luminaries arrayed in front of me who are gathered here to analyze challenges before the coastal community, I am sure that we understand how much relevant and important the topic is to us. Being a peninsular nation, we cannot afford to ignore the seas that connect us to the world and provide us numerous economic and security advantages. Having understood this, we can well appreciate the role of communities that reside at the interface of the sea and land, hereinafter called as the coastal communities. See, being a maritime safety practitioner, all my talk or whatever I say here would be colored in a hue of security and in the color of my profession and the organizational desire to conceive and implement a foolproof safety and security system with provisions for efficiently discharging the assigned charter while retaining the support and participation of the coastal communities, predominantly the fishermen community, because they form a major chunk of the coastal community. As we could see, a self-confident and vibrant India looks towards achieving its maritime destiny in the years ahead. The coastal community will also increasingly need to play a larger role in achieving our national aims. Institutions such as the maritime law enforcers, fishing associations, coastal zone management authorities, coastal state governments, and shipping industry, more than ever before, need to present decision making with a range of educated policy options on various issues. To bore you more, I have some statistics which say that approximately 18% of India's population lives in 72 coastal districts that comprise 12% of India's mainland. The national vision of security and growth for all in the region, that is Sagar, and the futuristic Sagarmala project all pivot around the coastal community. There are three main focus areas which are being pursued by the government for the integration of the coastal community in nation building and making them a part of the growth engine. Firstly, as has been highlighted here, is fisheries. But here I would talk about fisheries which is more to do fishing at sea. As the central ministries and state government fund capacity building, infrastructure and social development projects related to value addition in fisheries, aquaculture and cold chain development, there is an increase in density of fishing vessels heading out to sea for a living. This has further led to the interface of fishing grounds with the merchant shipping lanes, which are shifting closer to the safer Indian coast. Over a period of time, what we have seen that since the Indian coasts are much more safer than the African coast, much of the traffic is shifting towards our side. And this is causing an interference between the fishermen who are proceeding out to sea, going deeper and deeper into the sea, and the merchant marines who are operating within their sea lines of communication. High density of fishing boats has also increased loading on the maritime safety and security service providers in the domain. As a matter of fact, for the west coast of India, which has around 1,27,000 fishing boats, we, the Indian Coast Guard, has just 93 vessels to implement maritime safety and security in the domain. That is, one Coast Guard vessel for every 1,365 fishing boats. Notwithstanding, we have been able to rescue 9,339 lives since inception, which works out to one life being saved every other day, of which 165 lives have been saved by the Coast Guard Region West itself. This is since January 19 in this year. To give you an example of the magnanimity of the issue, let me quote you an example of the recent cyclone, Kyar and Maha. Most of you must be aware, there were two low pressure areas which were there in the Arabian Sea, and there was a lot of hue and cry over the safety and security of our fishermen who have ventured deep into the sea. Several hundred fishermen were stuck at sea despite the early warnings which were issued by the government, the Indian Coast Guard, both at sea and ashore. Our ships were going deep into the sea. We were broadcasting on the VHF on the radio saying that please come back because there is going to be a cyclone and you people could be in trouble. But then it was a Herculean task to bring back the stranded fishermen back to safety of the shores, with some of them having lost their boats to the rough seas. Now once we realized this, we said, how do we stop this happening again? So we did analysis, and what did we find? It indicates that there is a rise in the number of deep sea fishing vessels, availability of fish stock and easier fishing norms, more and more fishermen are adopting the practice of deep sea fishing, because the norms there, you go outside the 200 nautical mile, that the exclusive economic zone of India, and fish there in the high seas, there are hardly any norms to regulate you. Basically what you refer to as IUU fishing. So they are doing that. But not realizing that they themselves are exposing themselves to the dangers that a rough sea condition may pose a threat to them, to their lives, to their boats. So the lack of life-saving equipment, as I've just highlighted, these fishing boats have minimum life-saving equipment. Even if they are having a life jacket, they are not wearing it, because they say when I am fishing, it is obstructing my working conditions. So I will not be wearing a life jacket. In fact, I must tell you that in the last cyclone Maha, we have saved around 264 fishermen who have abandoned their boats, and they were taken on board our ships, and none of them was wearing a life jacket. So you can see how much risk a fisherman is taking to earn his living. Moreover, the unregulated interaction of these boats with foreign boats, generally from Sri Lanka, Oman, Maldives and other Middle Eastern states, tends to pose a threat to the maritime security of our own nation, as it would require just one rogue boat to attempt a trespass into our coastal areas. To counter such a scenario, besides a rigorous patrol regime, the Coast Guard has been integrating with the coastal community through its community integration programs, wherein we not only educate the community on survival at sea, but also apprise them of the new welfare schemes launched by the government for them. This year alone, we have done more than 150 community interaction programs in the western region. As I told you previously, the fishing boats outnumber any other type of vessels at sea. Therefore, we have been promoting fishermen acting as eyes and ears and assisting us in conduct of maritime search and rescue and law enforcement activities through information sharing. So you know that we cannot be omnipresent, but they can be. Everywhere, in every area of the ship, at the sea, you will find one or other fishing community, maybe from Tamil Nadu or Kerala or Goa or Karnataka or Gujarat fishing. And these are your best watchmen out there. So if they notice that something is amiss, they are the first person to inform you. It is also a well-known fact that the coastal community is the first to bear the brunt of any adverse weather phenomena in the seas around. Accordingly, the Government of India has been laying emphasis on providing adequate warning and humanitarian aid and disaster relief facilities for minimizing any danger to life and loss of property. The Coast Guard has been an active participant in such initiatives, and we have been providing aviation and surface resources, including chain of static sensors. We have radars and communication system all along the coast, which we are providing for their disaster relief. The ICJ disaster relief teams have been active participants in the recent flood operations in Maharashtra and Kerala, wherein more than 2,200 residents were assisted. From fisheries, I would like to move to the another aspect on which government is laying too much focus and which is going to directly affect the livelihood and the way the coastal communities survive and live or thrive. In addition to fisheries, a lot of impetus is going on to the development of coastal tourism for the development of coastal communities. Yes, from promoting tourism in maritime states under Sagarmala, projects have been identified in convergence with Ministry of Tourism and Tourism Development Departments of maritime state governments. Key coastal tourism projects, some of them, as you may be well aware, are the development of coastal circuits under the Swadesh Darshan scheme of the Ministry of Tourism, development of infrastructure for promoting cruise tourism, as you can see that Superstar, Vargo, and these cruise ships going from A place to B place, going from Mumbai to Goa, Mumbai to Oman. You have Jalesh now, which is operating ex-Mumbai. Development of lighthouses, National Maritime Heritage Museum Complex at Lothal, and an underwater viewing gallery and restaurant at Bet Dwarka. All this also means that we would have to spruce up our infrastructure for providing maritime search and rescue, maritime pollution response, because all these activities happening around our waters will enhance the threat that is posed by, say, a maritime search and rescue. Because if imagine a cruise liner going out there and sinking with 500 passengers on board. So we have to gear up for providing that type of maritime search and rescue services at those extended ranges, maybe say at 20 miles or 40 miles away from the shore. Similar, say there is a collision and there is an oil spill out at sea. So we have to commensurately spruce up our collision response capabilities. And notwithstanding maritime law enforcement. So when so many people go out there are so many incidents could happen. And how do you enforce law out at sea? At beyond 24 nautical miles, at the fringes of your exclusive economic zones. So that remains a challenge. Efforts are already on to devise and validate contingency plans for mass rescue operations from distressed ferry boats, cruise liners, and response to oil spills at sea. Recently, on the 12th of December, we have just conducted an exercise of Goa, wherein we have simulated that from a ferry has toppled and some around 100 passengers have gone into water. And we said, okay, let us come together, not only Coast Guard, everybody come together and see as to how we can help them. How we can bring them to the coast, how do we mobilize our hospitals, how do we mobilize our immigration people, because there will be foreigners also on board those ships. How do we most expeditiously bring them from sea to coast? Similarly, another big MSAR exercise is going to be held in March, which will have international observers. With this, the third focus area which the government is giving and which probably indirectly would influence the coastal community is skill development. It is an integrated approach which is being adopted for improvement in quality of life with focus on skill building and training, upgrading of technology in traditional professions, specific and time-bound action plan for improving physical and social infrastructure in collaboration with coastal states. The main features of the Coastal Community Development Plan consist of skill development in sectors like coastal tourism, development of fishing harbors, research and development in port and maritime sectors. So the government is trying to invest a lot into developing skills or skill sets amongst the coastal population so that they can take up businesses like coastal tourism, fishing, R&D in ports, maybe provide some sort of logistic support. This is found to provide a boost to the development of the coastal communities engaged or indirectly in economic activities in the coastal areas, mostly those involved in fish processing, tour operators, shipbuilding and repair, and providing logistic support to shipping activities in the area. As a prime service provider, I would say as a Coast Guard person, I would say that the Indian maritime domain, we find ourselves well placed in supporting the economic upswing in the coastal areas by providing requisite seaward safety and security through our assets located all along the Indian coast, including those in the Lakshadweep and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Andaman and Nicobar Islands reminds me of one of the proverbs, as you were rightly mentioning. There are certain areas, certain seas in our Indian domain which are less fish. We have heard of something called as overfishing, but there are certain areas which are not even fish. There is a saying in the Andaman that the fish dies in the Andaman seas because of old age. So all in all, there is no doubt that because India's growing aspirations and economic prowess, we will need to integrate our coastal communities in the National Growth Plan. The participation of our coastal communities has to be all inclusive. While government has certain responsibilities to discharge, it is the role of the community itself to provide objective and rigorously analyzed inputs on matters pertaining to integration of the coastal community in the nation building process. In conclusion, let me thank you for your patience hearing and wish seminar all the success. I am sure that your deliberations will be meaningful and will go a long way towards building a synergetic and visionary national approach. Thank you, sir.